Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Real Talk with Kessa Gooden. I am so honored to be here today. Today is our premiere episode, and I've been dreaming for this moment for years and years to come. And I'm so proud that E360 TV managed to pick me up and said, "Oh, you know what? You could do your show." So thank you guys so much for joining me today. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this page because every week I wish to bring you real talk where we talk about real life matters, real challenges that we all go through and face every day. And today's episode, we are going to talk about overcoming the stress, the trauma of the foster care system, along with many other triumphs that my special guest has overcome. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining. Make sure you go ahead and comment a question below or like this page and share it with others as well. So my very special guest is none other than my coach, my mentor, Loren Michael Harris. He's such a great blessing to my life. Over the past year, he has been doing such a wonderful job in my life. And also, he's been doing so many great work around the world. Loren has a story of triumphant, of overcoming the foster care system. And also, he's a multiple brand owner for 8 companies. So he's able to help you to take your speaking career to the next level. He has also been featured on Goldcast, where his video is motivational video, has over 7 million views worldwide. So I'll go ahead and introduce my guest and bring my guest in, none other than Mr. Loren Michael Harris. Hi, Loren.
Hi, Kessa. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the show. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
I'm
for being a special
honored.
guest.
I'm honored. You're the special one. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. You've done so much hard work over the last year and prior to meeting me, which is what got you to me. And I'm just really excited for you and excited to be here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I want you to take a moment and share with the guests a little bit more about yourself because I know there's so much more about you. You're such a dynamic person,
Hmm.
and I would like you to share a little bit about your story today so that the guests can be aware that, listen, even if there's problems that's going on, we can triumph over them. So tell us what makes you Lauren Michael Harris.
Well, first of all, I've eradicated that word problems as well as um, let me think. What did I used to? I used to refer to problems, mistakes, things like that, curses, generate. I got rid of all that because today I know for a fact that none of those things truly exist. They're merely blessings that have just been born into the process of becoming. And when you're patient, everything you've ever lived will make sense, will all come together, and will help to make your life what it has been designed from the very beginning to be, if you believe. So, yeah, I did. I had some challenges, if you will, like we all have and will continue to have. It's just a part of life. I always tell people, a lot of people strive and they think that what they really want is, oh, I can't wait until my life is smooth sailing, till everything is just like right here. But, when you live, let's just say our lives were up on if the universe had a heart monitor connected to each of us. Would you really want that flat line? No. The flat line is proof that there is no life. It's when you get the up and the down that proves that there's a heart within you and it's beating. And so, that's the first thing I want to say. And then to be encouraging to others is just, it takes courage. It takes a special kind of courage to look over your shoulder to the life you've lived in order for it all to begin to make sense. And, you can't be afraid of it. Going back and, because when we go back in our minds to certain times in our lives, it's really a form of time travel. It's just like this, this highlighter. It came with all of what you see here, but sometimes the two get separated, right? And the thing about it is when you find that courage, it gives you the ability to remember yourself to the moment. And when you go there, when you're strong enough and ready, you go there. And believe it or not, when you really look around in those rooms, you'll see all kinds of gifts and things that life has left you knowing that one day you would return to pick up this value and take it and do what you were meant to do all along in this world. So I just want to put that out there to start.
Thank you, Loren. Very
Mm-hmm.
well said. And I love that you are a man with the eyes of talent. You can see talent in individuals. And I
Mm.
love that. The eyes of purpose. I really love that about you. And, I want to touch a little bit about what you said earlier, that you've eradicated the word problem and like challenges and stuff like that. It's just a way to refine you to get to the next level. The reason why I want to touch on that, Loren, I feel it's important for my viewers and my audience out there that's listening to this to know that the way that we put the words, the way that we say things, the way that
Mm.
we do things,
Mm.
it's going to impact our life. And it's very important that we try to refrain from using certain words that will put us in a bad state of being or in a negative aspect of being. So I
Mhm.
really would love for you to touch a little bit more
Mm.
on that topic right there to enlighten my audience outside.
I will. Thank you for that. That's one of my favorite things to do is to drop this one in there for you to just consider, walk all the way around it. Kessa, when you came, as with all the people that coach with me, one of the first things we do is we start identifying words that deceive so that you can then eradicate them from your world. If you can stop them from coming from you, you can block them from coming at you. And what I mean by words that deceive are things like one of the greatest ones is TOO. That is one serial killer right there of dreams. Too tired, too broke, it's too expensive,
Mm-hmm.
it's too much, it's too soon, it's too late, too. And words that deceive other ones, mm, I can't believe. Ain't it strange how, out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
boy, this water, good as hell. All of those are words that deceive. And words that deceive, when you really start watching them come from you, you'll notice that they usually, 95% of the time, will jump in front of the truth between words 1 and 7. So people say, I always use this example. Somewhere in the world right now, there was a person who got up this morning. She needed $20 to put gas in her tank to get to work to feed her children. There was no milk. It was the last of it, or there's a little cereal. And she's like, if I don't get to work, they're going to write me up. I'm going to lose my job. I've been warned. Can't. She called everybody that she knew. Nobody answered, or they didn't have it. And then she suddenly felt out of nowhere a little chill. Well, let me go to the closet and get that old ratty sweater that always falls off the only wire hanger. And sure enough, there it was on the floor. So she picks it up. But when she puts it on and slides around and pulls it over her body, she runs her hand inside one of the pockets and feels something, automatically thinking it's a receipt or some type of a note. But what she finds is the $20 bill that she was asking about all along. Now she has two choices at that point. She can either thank the name that came out of her mouth when she was panicking. Oh, Lord. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. That's what happens. But then oftentimes when we get the answer, because you've asked, and now something greater than you has answered, but what do? We'll go, oh, thank you, Jesus. Or that's good. But some people go like, oh my goodness, where did this come from? And then the phone will ring and it'll be, Darlinda, her friend who is just now calling back. She goes, girl, I was calling for $20, but you won't believe what happened. Out of nowhere in my pocket, I found, ain't it strange how those things happen? All those words take you from looking at the blessing, remembering how you got it. You asked for it and it was provided. It wants you to believe that all the good things that happen are arbitrary, just circumstantial, a luck. Could have happened to anybody. And that's not the truth. So, they always say out of nowhere, I was blessed with $20. Well, it's not out of nowhere. It jumped in there between words 1 and 7 because those forces that are working against your legacy are aware of one truth, that if you ever see the blessing, you can go out and be that blessing. But if you don't see the blessing, you can never be the blessing. And so it wants to take you, wants to distract you. And that's so words that deceive are very, very important. Nothing to play with. So that's the first place I start.
You're very right, Lauren, because sometimes we're so occupied with these words that we can't even realize the blessings that's coming our way. We can't even see it. And instead of being in a state of expectancy, what we are in is a state of worry. Most of us as humans, what we struggle with is being in that state of being occupied with worry instead of expecting that the universe and that the world, things that we want will come to us. That when we seek for something, then we shall find it. We will have it. So, most of the time when we're too busy with that worry mindset, we're blindfolded by it. We're
Mhm.
blindfolded by what is happening in our life.
Mhm.
And then sometimes when we realize what is happening, it may be even too late to say, oh, my blessing has passed me, or I moved too soon from this
We
door.
think it's too late.
Right.
It's never too late. It's never too anything. Because the thing about it is, if you believe in something greater than yourself, there are no mistakes. Everything is perfect. The
Yes.
timing, the place you're at, the people that are around you, even when it doesn't feel that way, because oftentimes we're put through situations as reminders of examples, as earmarkers of what you don't want to become. And so even that, I had a guy once when I finished on stage came up and said, well, everything you said was great, but doesn't apply to a guy like me. And I said, well, why would you say that? He says, because last Friday I signed the papers for my 5th divorce. I just can't get it right. And so how could I ever help anybody? I said, I'll tell you how. You can help anybody that needs to understand what a bad relationship looks like. If
Mhm.
anybody can be an authority on that and help other people from that road, it would be someone like you. And he took that with him. And today actually has a business based on helping people get over divorce or stay away from it. And so, and that's how it works with all of us. Everything that you go through establishes you as an authority because it didn't kill you. If you're still here, here's the process. Every time we have an opportunity, and that's what everything is, it's an opportunity. We get to go into it. We go in with the G and the O. When you come out the other side, you have, believe it or not, you look around, oh, look at this R, look at this W. Put them together, now you have grow. Because when you go in, you know something when you come out the other side. You've grown while you're in there. Now you're an authority. Now your job is to be of service to the world with what you know to be true. And that's why you go, you grow, then you show.
Amen to that. I wish I had a bell to ring
I
right
got
there.
one. Another purpose. Right.
Very well said. Very well said, Lauren. So, all right. So, we're talking about growing right now at this point and how we learn how to overcome and grow through a situation. This brings me to a point. I wanted to talk to you about your story of having 22 moms.
Mm.
Would you mind sharing that with the audience so
No.
that they know that it is possible? Because there's many people out there who doesn't even have one mom, but having 22 moms, it's two ways to it. It's two sides to it. It could be 22 bad moms, or a few of them may be good, or a few may be bad, or it could be just 22 great moms. So
Mhm.
I would like you to tell me and tell the audience a little bit about your story about facing the foster care system and having those moms.
Hmm. I'll say this as far as the 22 women that were specifically chosen to play a role in my life, none of them were good or bad. They were who they were. They all contributed something to my journey. I have my original Eve, my mother that birthed me, Lucille, who I found at the age of 32. And then I have my mother who raised me until she passed, and that was Ada Mae Dixon. And then the ones in between them that cared for me or tried the best they could during those years and within the foster care system. Now, in the Goldcast video, which by the way now has over 14 million views, I tell that story. And why is the story so important? Well, for me, it was because the night that I got on that stage in front of about 400 people and gave that story, I nearly ran off the stage 3 times waiting for my turn to speak. And God had placed a girl next to me, a fellow speaker, who just kept, she put her hand on my leg and said, Loren, just don't run, just stay. And I had no way of knowing because I thought I was going to, how stupid are you, Loren? You're about to get up and expose all your scars. You're about to get up there. I felt like the proverbial Hester Prynne from the Nathaniel Hawthorne book, The Scarlet Letter.
Mhm.
And I really looked at my story as something to be ashamed of. Who has 22 mothers? What's wrong with you? And it wasn't until that night that I learned, because that was the night that that story eventually became my Goldcast video. And I didn't go to Goldcast. They found that video on their own. I had 2 videos on my YouTube channel, and that was it. And it had been sitting there for over a year and a half, just as dusty, but it was still the thing about the truth. It has a ring to it. And when you put your truth out there, it will beckon to you all that is meant for you, because you have shared your story. What we don't realize, but we need to, especially when seeking your purpose in this world and finding legacy and abundance, is that wear your scars proudly, because number one, our scars are proof of healing. It's proof that we can finish whatever it was that used to be wide open and we thought it would never heal. That scar is proof that it healed. But when you look through that scar with eyes based on the third eye, something greater than you, you will see underneath every scar that there lives a heart that's lying there waiting for you to give it permission to beat by sharing those stories. And the moment I did that, my life turned around in ways I could have never imagined even possible, let alone meant for a kid like me. That's how I felt. And what it did was it became the great equalizer. Truth is the great equalizer, because it is the only thing in the universe that will never, ever change, and it will never change on you. Friends and family will come and go. Hemlines, hairstyles, all of those things change, sometimes daily. But the truth, if you speak it right now, a million years from now, someone repeats what you spoke as the truth, it will still be just that, the truth. And so many of us are willing to give the world versions of the truth. You know, we want to leave out certain parts of our stories thinking, oh, but I can tell them this, but Lord, if I told them, if they knew I used to, if they knew I was once if they knew I used to hang with, if they knew. Well, if they knew, they'd be even more impressed, because they'd see that's not what defines you. They will understand it's what refines you.
Exactly.
That's how you got from here to there, from the rooter to the tutor, you know. And so it is a real interesting and challenging thing to acknowledge your own truths. But once you do, the healing is yours, and that's a promise.
Very well
That's the Bella
said.
Purpose Show.
Very well said, Loren. And I love your story. I'm very impacted by your story and inspired by it. And Loren, let me tell you something. You are doing such a great job for the young individuals out there who are watching this video right now, who are being inspired to know that if they're in the foster care system, having one mom or two mom or even 22 moms. Look at Loren today. Loren is awesome. He's doing so many great things. It is okay to go through that and make whatever you're going through. Don't let it define you. Let it refine you, as Loren says. So I really appreciate you sharing that part of your story with us,
Absolutely.
Loren. For what was it like going through the foster care system? And I want you to share from two perspectives. Is as a child that is losing his mom and his family and support system, and as a child that's seen it from the system perspective. How did you feel then? Could you share and paint a picture as a child, just so the other children out there, the other people who are going through the same things, can see that you, even though you were in that place, you were able to triumph and overcome that state of mind and that place?
Yes. And the only way that that was possible for me was I grew into the mindset. I evolved into the mindset where I realized I had a superpower that I wasn't aware of prior. And that superpower is the ability to reinvent blame. And what I mean by that is, for many years, decades, you know, when I first went into the very first day they picked me up from our family home and took me to my first foster home, they handed me a trash bag and said, put all you can fit in there. That's what you get to bring. And so instantly you're being associated with garbage. And I carried that proverbial trash bag through decades of my life. I kept reaching in it in my 20s, thinking something inside has changed. Maybe there's not just garbage in this bag. And I'd reach in, and in my 20s, I pulled out depression.
Wow.
And then I waited, I went through that and fought and went through some suicide attempts and whatnot. No matter what was going on in my life, that People magazine behind me happened when I was 26 years old. I was all over the world in the matter of a couple of weeks. There was no internet in 1988, but I was on all the talk shows. I had started the world's very first apology service because God was showing me through doing this for other people how important it was to forgive. And I did it. I learned it by doing over 10,000 apologies for people all over the world. And it was, even with those kinds of things happening, I still did not feel any type of self-worth. I didn't like myself, so I couldn't love myself. And I just was listening to that dictator that kept whispering, "You're worthless." The things that, my abusers during the years in foster care had whispered to me to control my silence. You're not this, you'll never be that. This is as good as it gets for kids like you. All those things were in there constantly being just broadcast over and over. And I tried everything. I tried to turn it down. I tried to turn the channel. It wasn't until I just broke the volume knob completely off that I shut that dictator's mouth once and for all. Today, when he tries to sneak back in, I just upright stand straight up and tell him, "You can come over if you want to. You will walk over, but you will limp back. I'm not playing with you anymore." And what that means to me is this. Reinventing blame. I spent decades angry. I felt like, because I didn't make those choices as a child. Even, the mother that raised me until she passed, that was an adopted mother who never really actually adopted me. But you know what? I didn't crawl out of my crib at a week old from my birth mother and say, "Oh, y'all, here, I'll send you my forwarding address, send my Pampers and my Infamil or Isomil or whatever the thing I was drinking, send my milk to this address, I'm out of here," and crawled away. It didn't happen that way. That decision was made for me, and most likely it started being made for me before I drew a breath. But nonetheless, it was my journey. So I went around angry, feeling like everybody in the world owed me. I could do it, anything I wanted and get away with it, because if you had lived what I lived, you'd be angry like this too. And then in my 20s and 30s, I started thinking I had evolved, and because now I was doing this. But what I was doing was I was playing the blame game now. This is why that happened. It's her fault. It's his fault. It's their fault. It's a broken system. But when I got to the point where because see, this isn't evolving. This is still 75% of a fist. I was still stuffing everything down in there that I had kept in here. And now I'm angry and I'm bitter and I'm blaming people. It wasn't until I decided I don't have any room to hold anything new walking around with balled up fists. When I opened my hands up, I automatically dropped a lot of the stuff that I was carrying because I had to in order to pick up the blessings that were waiting right in front of me. Once I did that, I learned the power of reinventing blame. Those whispers from sexual and physical abusers, I use that today to speak to kids all over the world. It gives me a voice to say, "Don't listen. That voice is the voice of a liar." When it comes to a broken system, I reinvented blame, and I use that to help create change, to get rid of trash bags in the foster system, to get rid of the idea that the answer is congregate care or group homes, as most people know it, and start the conversation towards we need families, we need loving people. That's the kind of home all kids deserve. When a lot of the kids that I passed through homes in growing up, most of them would go to what was known then as special ed at school. And I was blessed because I'd been in private school all my life, so I was kind of ahead. So I would go automatically into the public school. But a lot of those kids went to what was called special ed. They would get called retards and this and the other, and there was nothing wrong with them. Special needs is what we call it today, but I don't even like that one because all kids are special and all kids have needs. So, what is it? And so my point in all this is this. Reinventing blame means now I blame everything that I thought was once a mistake because I know it was really a blessing. I blame it for getting me to where I am today. I blame every one of the versions of me When my name was Larry before my mother died, and when they picked me up, they said, "That's not who you are." And they took me away. I was Dixon. I had a different last name and everything. Suddenly I have a new name. I'm living in a new home with new people, changing sometimes 2, 3 times a week. But every one of the versions of me helped get me to the man I am today. So when I reinvented Blame, I literally and figuratively unstitched every one of those kids, every one of those versions of myself. I unstitched their lips and returned their voice. I gave them the opportunity to share their story because they lived through things for me to get here. And I have to honor them by sharing what they've done.
Thank you so much, Loren, for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
That is really, really amazing. Right now, guys, if you're just tuning in, we are with Real Talk with Kessa Gooden, and we're at the top of our hours, and we are going to bring in some sponsors who made this show possible for us today. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back and give us a few, okay? Welcome back, everyone, to Real Talk with Kessa Gooden. I am here speaking with Loren Michael Harris. If you missed what we were talking about earlier, we were talking about the foster care system and overcoming the foster care system and 22 moms for Loren. So if you're just joining us, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Comment below if you have any questions. Show us some love. Show my guests some love, guys. Okay.
Uh,
So Loren, just now before we went on break, you were talking about how the abuse that went through in the you went through in the foster care system, and also I want to emphasize the fact that you mentioned a trash bag.
yeah.
What message could they be sending to children when they're giving them a trash bag to be transitioned outside of a home? See, that could break you not just mentally but physically, emotionally, in every way possible, because that's sending the wrong message. That's a subliminal message to the youth in foster care system if they have to be ready in an hour in with trash bags. So I want to touch on that a little bit, Loren, to speak about some of the things that you have observed with your own eyes in that was set up to break you, but instead it refined you so that you could build your life and your legacy, how you're building it.
Okay, great question. Well, I consider now, in retrospect, it wasn't always that way, but I see it now as everything was purposeful. The thing about the trash bags, no one can ever give us a solid answer of why that is still around and prevalent all these years. I'll tell you what it does do. You get it, and you, even if you're strong enough here as a kid to say, you know what, so what? It's a trash bag. You go to the when you if you've ever gone to laundromats, you'll see people bringing their laundry in a trash bag. But what is it you think? When
Mhm.
you bring your stuff in a laundry basket, you look over and say, look at them with their stuff in the trash bag. You judge.
Mhm.
It's automatic. I mean, if we're keeping it real, everybody does that. But with kids, you know, when you're moving between foster homes, most likely the kids that are permanent residents in those neighborhoods, they know that that house is a foster care uh,
Mhm.
facility. They know that the kids are coming and going because they get to know you, and it's always changing, and so they watch. They know the car. Oftentimes, back then when I was in, they didn't use social workers, caseworkers didn't use their own cars. They used the state cars with the big emblems on the side, and they
Mhm.
were always ugly, weird colors that nobody would really be driving a car that color, you know. And they see you get out, and then you have to go to school, and they're like, "Yeah, that's the kid. That you're a hobo. You're a bum. I saw you. You got to that house. You had all your stuff in a garbage bag. You're trash. Where'd you live before? Under a bridge, you know." So suddenly, you know, you don't even really, and often, many cases, you didn't have time to even get a good footing or start a good relationship before you went home, you know, feeling really, really bad or poorly about something you didn't have control over. And for children, you know, you're mourning, you're grieving, sometimes just the good foster home that you just left, you know, because you don't have any control. You can come home from school, ready to do homework, and loving the people that you're living with, and all of a sudden you look to the right and there are all your bags packed because they got a call a couple hours ago that they need to move you out to make space for someone else who maybe this house has been qualified for special needs or to help with a kid that's got a special issue, and you don't fit that bill, but they had you there in the meantime because it was a bed, but now they're going to move you wherever because this is the only place that fits the criteria for the kid that needs a home right now.
Mhm.
And you don't understand it, but you cannot help but take some of that personally. Why doesn't anyone want to keep me? Why do, and you know, a lot of kids that get adopted that were in foster care end up being rehomed, given away to other people, or returned to the system. I know kids who were rehomed 9, 10 times, 9 or 10 times. I know kids who have been adopted 3 or 4 times and returned like they were a bad piece of clothing that didn't fit. We just need to do better and remember that all of these children are our future adults.
Yes.
And so when you look at things like generational cycles and all the things, you know, I'll be honest with this. You know, I know that the foster care system is a direct pipeline to county jails and prison because when you end up as a teenager and you go to a facility, the group home I ended up in before I aged out was in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was called Arbor Heights Center. Great people there, but the facility had the hallways just like you have in school, all the little bitty pebble things, and it's all shiny, and you can slide down it on your in your socks. That was the fun part. But big doors with the window in it, just like in a jail or prison, with the
Mhm.
wire going through the thick glass. The bed bolted down to the floor, that gray institutional setting, the green, mint green, hard plasticky mattress and pillow. You know, you can't keep the pillow in the little pillowcase because it's that hard place, slide out on the floor. You know, the walls are that pukey yellow, big block brick. You can't hang anything up. You can tape posters and stuff, but you know, it smells and sounds. The bathrooms have urinals and stalls and all the things that are associated when you end up in county jail, which I did, and most of them do. It's the same thing. And when you move out of that into prison, which I did, it's the same thing. It is a pipeline because they have been grooming you.
Yes.
And it's just a sad, sad situation. We need to, I would love in my lifetime to see congregate care group homes completely eradicated from the system and
Bell of
children
purpose.
placed within real, living, breathing families.
Yes, and Lauren, I wish I had the bell. I would have ring it for that because
Mhm.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's about 80% or 90% of children who end up in foster care system end up in human trafficking
Yes.
jail
or
prison,
prison. Yep. They're
and
dead.
homeless on the street,
Yep.
and we're sitting down saying that this system is okay to do that to our children and our future generation. At the end of the day, if we kill all the youths and put all the youths in bad situation, what we're doing, what we're sending a message for them is that there's no hope for the future.
Right.
You're, and then especially, let's touch this topic, Lauren, black males and black females, right? So the percentage of black males and black females that is being sent to foster care system is way higher than the percentage of a Caucasian person that is being sent to the foster care system. And when we look at this, is there a bias when it comes to the system, how it's set up to tear homes apart? And I'm
Yeah.
speaking this because I've experienced some of this myself, so I
Yes.
understand. And we're lucky to survive it, but there's many people out there that haven't survived the foster care system. They're sending a broken message to our youths when they go into the foster care system, that okay, you're worth trash, your family is not worth
They
anything,
don't love you.
they don't love you, they don't care for you, and all these are lies that they're spreading to the children that they take away from their home. And then they give you hell, excuse my language, but they give you hell to pre-qualify to get back your children, when
Exactly.
in the first place you have to work hard to take care of them for yourself. You don't
Right.
you don't need them to help you or something like that, but they give you hell. So I want to touch a little bit about the name callings, and I want, if this is okay, Lauren, you have faced a lot of name callings in your past, not just in the foster care system. And the reason
Hmm.
I'm bringing this up, this is Real Talk with Kessa Gooden. So we want to talk about real life things. Earlier, you said something about judgment.
Hmm.
Tell us what it's like to face judgment of being an African American male gay person.
Mm. Well, interestingly enough, I am one of those people that if they do have an issue or whatever, I don't see it or they don't show it. But it is out there because I have been around people who forget. They forget you're black, and they'll throw out an off-colored joke or whatever, and I'll go, "Hello, I'm right here," and they go, "Well, Lauren, we don't. That doesn't mean you, of course, and that's one thing." But as far as the African American gay male thing, I was a late bloomer with that. And it's interesting because my husband too, didn't come out until he was almost 30 years old. I didn't come out until I was, well, to be honest with you, completely 35 years old.
Mm.
And the thing about it was and it wasn't because I was feeling ashamed or anything like that. I knew what it was. I mean, I think I knew when I was a little kid and you get called sissy and this and other, and back then I never could understand it because, I like to cook and I still do. I had a catering division of my own event planning firm for 25 years. But back then, even though like the Galloping Gourmet there was no Rachel Ray, yes, there was, what's her name? Julia Child. But and still today, a lot of the top chefs are men, and they were. But when you were a little boy wanting to cook, I didn't want a racetrack. I wanted an easy bake oven. You're a sissy. You're this and the other. But that stuff didn't even matter anything to me, honestly, until after the abuse in the system. Because then as I went into my adulthood, and my attractions were what they naturally are, I questioned that because I thought it was me fulfilling the prophecy of the abuser.
Mm.
Um, I hadn't dealt with it. That was another thing. That's probably for another show. But, when kids come out of the system, and even while they're in there, I think every kid that is in foster care should be offered the opportunity to have counseling while they're in there.
Mhm.
I was abused the very first night that I was in foster care, and I was still smelling. I was trying to go to sleep when he came in, sniffing a paper bag that had my mom's hand towel in it. I grabbed it at the last minute because she'd already put my trash bag in the trunk, and then something told me to go back into my mom's bathroom and grab her hand towel because I used to always smell it because it smelled like triple lanolin hand lotion, which I thought was the most heavenly smell in the world. And so it smelled like she was with me. And that's what I was going to use to try to get some sleep, to calm myself. But my experience was, and this, oh, I used to tell this story from the stage. I don't any longer, because Goldcast took care of it for me, and I don't really go back to the scene of that proverbial crime anymore, unless it's things like this. But the very first night there were three boys that were locked in the room with me at 8 p.m. that night, and two were pretty close to my age, and then the youngest was 4, and that was Andrew. And I was like, laying on my bunk bed on my stomach, sniffing my thing, listening to my little radio and telling them, just leave me alone. I don't want to know you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm angry. I'm bitter. And they said, listen, the little one, I didn't know who it was talking, but when I flipped over to say, just shut up and leave me alone, I was really shocked to see all three of them standing there. But the little bitty one was the spokesman. Now, I understood later why he was the spokesman, because he was 4 years old, but he was the only one of us that had never been in a normal home. He had been born in prison, passed from prison straight to foster care. And he said, listen, new kid, you don't have to like me, but you probably need to listen to me. He goes, you see that mattress that's propped against that wall over there? It was a twin mattress, like off of one of the bunk beds. I said, yeah. He goes, well, there's a hole in the wall behind that mattress. And on the other side of it is a locked closet. And there's a hole in that closet. And that door is locked. And then there's another door to get in that bedroom that stays locked all the time. So there's 2 keys, but there's one man that has both of those keys, and he never takes them out of his pocket. And because you're new, he's going to use those keys tonight to come through that door, to go into that closet and climb through that hole. He's going to move that mattress, and he'll be coming for you. So there's some things you need to know. Don't pretend like you're sleeping. Don't act like anything hurts, or don't cry. Whatever you do, don't cry. Don't whimper. It'll be worse. And I still, while he's telling me, I don't even really know what he's talking about, but I could sense the fear that came with the truth. That's one time where it really was there. It wasn't false evidence appearing real. That mattress was just 7 feet away from me. And I remember I'd keep my back to it, facing the wall, listening to my little radio. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack was being played all the time. It was a hit movie then. And I would be listening to it. And I turned over, and it was seconds after I turned over and I saw the hand that came and went around the mattress and slid it. And it was after that was the moment. What is greater than me, the universe, God, created a room where it always took me when something that could potentially be something to fracture my spirit. It would take me there and keep me safe until after whatever it was had passed. And I've just recently, in the last 6 or 7 months through therapy, found the courage to actually go and stand back in that room. I know that room. I know that room when I get on a stage and I speak to a kid afterwards that's being abused. I will hug them, and when I hug them, I'm transported. I know that carpet in my bare feet, and it's a pitch black room, but you know the feel of the carpet. You know the color of the walls without ever having seen them. It's undeniable. It's unmistakable. And so I'm even grateful for that room, because it helps me identify someone who has been in there right along with me. And, so again, it all boils down to, I don't think I will ever completely have worked my way through everything that, there's still things that still come up. I still have triggers. It wasn't until four years ago, I was driving to the lake house with Brian. We were in the car, and I started, there he is. Hi, honey. And I'm telling the story about the peppermint. And my original abuser would chew peppermint gum.
Wow.
While he was abusing. And I remember as I would like leave to go to that room, I would only see the mouth. And we were in the car headed to Michigan. And, I have been places where an overwhelming smell of peppermint would just take over, and I'd physically get sick. And so there's all kinds of things that are associated. I know kids who can't have kids of their own, couldn't have kids of their own because of what happened in there. Kids that still bear the scars of being burned with cigarettes or hot spoons from the stove. And I watched kids, little girls, pull all their hair out, things like that, and it's there's a lot. But the reason I speak that story today not only is because of the scars. Have a heart beneath that. I gave permission to tell that story, but I don't tell that story just for myself. When I talk about this thing called foster care, I'm speaking for so many, the millions of kids that have not made it out. Those three boys that were in that room with me, I sought them out when I got out of the system, when I aged out all those years later. And I got my original caseworker had been a caseworker right out of college for 3 weeks when she took me on. When I found her, right after I found my mom at age 32, I went looking for Ann. When I found her, she had just retired and had been retired for 3 weeks. So I got her on both ends of her career. And so she went looking for me because she had the records. She was the caseworker for all four of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then but she couldn't remember them all. She goes, I've always wondered what happened to you, but there's been so many kids over the years. Let me go and see. And it was about 3 months later. She called me up and she goes, I got some news, but it's not good. And I was like, well, what? She went down through each kid, and not one of those boys made it past the age of 14 years old. They all died in the system.
Wow.
And so I got a necklace that has 3 different stones on it. And my first 200 or 300 speeches, I would wear that on the stage and hold it for strength and courage to get through it. Because I knew if it were for me, I'd do what I wanted to do that night when I gave what was the Gold Cast performance, and I'd want to run. But when you are doing something outside of yourself, when you're being of service and you're speaking for someone who can no longer speak for themselves, you can be truly amazed with the gift that is yours of courage to go there on the behalf of those who can't for themselves.
Loren, thank you so much. Oh my God. I feel your story, and I know that the young children that are out there going through abuse, whether they're boys or girls, they have that boogeyman in the closet that actually take away their first innocent and take away something precious for them. And I know it's not easy, and I'm
Mm-mm.
thank you so much for sharing
Of
this with
course.
us today, because it is uplifting for someone who know that others survived this. See, Lauren, you're doing a good job. You survived this, and you're here today, and you're helping others going through, you know, like building their career and stuff. So to know that there is that way through, and to know that there's someone else that made it through. I know, like you mentioned, the smell of the peppermint. My abuser, the smell was marijuana. If I smell marijuana, I go off my mind. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So I think it's important that the audience that is there watching today, that you watch your children and you ask them to speak up. Don't let them wait too late to speak up, because they might be going through similar situation, whether
Sure.
it's rape, whether it's abuse, molestation by close friends or close family
Mm-hmm.
members. Ask them to speak up. Build that trust and confidence with your children so that they can come to you and say, Mama, help, Daddy, help. And even if you're just an aunt or uncle, those children out there are our future generation. And if they're broken, the future generation is going to be broken. It is our duty for us to be there to care for our children, and to not let systems like the foster care system or the boogeymans that is sitting around the corner come and take over our lives and our children's lives.
That's right.
It
That's
was
right.
very great for you to share this story with me today, Lauren.
Awesome. I'm happy to do it. And I just want to clarify something. This I remember when I first started speaking publicly, I would have to turn around, and even if I showed the Goldcast video, I'd break down, and I stopped apologizing for those tears, because I want this to be an encouraging moment for everyone out there, because we've all shed them. But I want you to know something. Every time one or two of them escape your eyes, wherever they land, I'm looking at a wet spot on my pants right now. And now when I look at wherever they land, I'm grateful for them, because every one of them, when they land, they create a syllable. They create a syllable that will be connected with other syllables from other tiers to create that word that creates the line, that creates the sentence, the paragraph, the page, the chapter, the book, the volume, the legacy.
Yes.
So honor your scars and celebrate your tears because they are all proof of healing and they are all proof that nothing is a mistake. It is merely a blessing that was born into the process of becoming, and let them become.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you. We're here at the end of the close to the end of the show right now.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for joining us today. And if you missed this, make sure you watch the replay. Thank you all for being here with us. And thank you so much, Lauren. Lauren, is there any last parting words you have for the audience out there?
I do. You know, sometimes I feel cheated almost that it took 5 decades for me to understand it all. But then seconds later, I know that everything is in perfect alignment with my purpose in this world. And so I just want people to understand, don't be afraid at all. Um, Always remember that whatever you're living with, you were chosen to be a warrior. You were chosen to be the person who one day will be in authority on whatever it is that you feel. Remember, never forget how many times we've said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh God, this is it. This is it. This is the end. But here you are. Anything that can happen once can happen twice. So if you see the victory once, know that it can be yours each and every time you choose, because there are only two choices in this world: the one you make and the one you don't. And so choose. And when you step over the threshold of any opportunity, because everything is an opportunity, step over it, whether you understand it or not. Don't run from the question mark, because the question mark is proof that God is in there with you. If you didn't see a question mark, it would mean you already know everything. And you wouldn't want to be there anyway, because that's an ego room. That's a setup. So when you have questions, just step over the threshold. Don't think you have to come up with all the answers. What is standing in front of you? God will stand before you, walk beside you, and cover the rear behind you. Because as humans, we will never be able to see everything. But always, always, always do this. 4 little words, thy will be done, will get you off the hook. And once you step inside, show what is greater than you, that you are committed to whatever is best for this journey, which you accepted before you came here. Look at that opportunity head on. Look at it from top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side, side to side. Check it from corner to corner, corner to corner. And then put your best foot in front of you and take one step at a time. I guarantee you, what is greater than you will bless you in ways you could have never seen coming. The world is waiting for you and your story. There's an intersection somewhere in history that is waiting for you to write that history. They've already been told, just go and meet so-and-so, him or her, right there at the corner of this or that. Even if they're not there when you get there, stay put. I promise you they will come, because we've built it. You guys get out there and remember, if you can see the blessing, then you can be the blessing.
Thank you, Lauren. Well
My
said.
pleasure.
Thank you so
God
much
bless
for
you.
being here today.
Thank
Um,
you.
for everyone who are just tuning in today, you missed a great show. Please watch the replay, as Lauren really, really laid it out. This is Real Talk with Kessa Gooden. I'm your host. I am so happy and honored to be here with you guys today, and I'm looking forward to talk to Kara Scott Dentley on our next episode
I
next
love
week.
Kara.
Yeah, so she will
Yay.
be on our next episode next week, and the week after that, we're looking at Bob Doyle from The Secret. So make sure you guys tune in the same time next week for Real Talk with Kessa Gooden. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your week and your weekend. Thank you.